Hey guys, welcome to my newest video on vampirism. If you haven't seen the first, the link's on the screen or you can also click it below. This is basically builds and tips for the Dawnguard expansion, which will be hitting PC shortly. So let's go ahead and start with some builds and we'll finish up with tips to help you get the best vampire possible. Okay guys, let me show you a useful tool that I use for building my Skyrim characters. It's on igm.com, and as you see here is the address, but I'll also put a link below. This helps you create your characters without having to be in game. In this particular character builder, you just click on what kind of category you're interested in out of the 4 different types. You know, you have your combat skills, stealth, non-combat is like your smithing, speech and alchemy and all that. And then when you select a category, like illusion for example, which is kind of quintessential for a vampire, when you put a point in, it will tell you exactly what level you'll need to be up here in the corner. So it's pretty useful. You can kind of chart along here and put in up to 81, level 81 is the max for Skyrim. So if you do more than that, if you see you're level 82 or 100, it will let you do it, but just keep in mind that the game's not going to let you do that naturally, especially if you're playing on Xbox or just want to keep a legit character build like I like to do. Then just be aware of what level you're currently at. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first character build, which is from Veronica, the vampire I featured in video 1. This one, she is more of a hybrid character. She has some combative abilities, like I gave her light armor. As you see, I put all the perks in here, except for the top one. I went one-handed, doing the Bladesman, which is one of the only characters that ever leveled up the blade ability for the extra percentage of critical strike, because normally I won't bother. I think they're better used in other places. Paralyzing strike and all that was good too, but I kept it pretty simple. I didn't do anything into blocking, and I did kind of more heavily in the magic area, even though just a couple destruction lines were chosen. And then going up to expert instead of master, didn't decide to do that. I thought it was kind of a waste of points for the spells you actually get. You probably won't be using them as much in the master form. And then you also have dual cast and impact, which I recommend. In the restoration, I kept it simple too, just keeping it to adept, where you get the better healing and heal others. And then I did recovery in this, which on my other character types I haven't done, and I actually don't really recommend this because I think you can get the 50% faster regeneration through an armor perk and use those 2 points somewhere else. So that might be something I would change. But you guys feel free to spec however you'd like to. One thing that's pretty regular across the board for me on the hybrid type vampires is I like doing light armor, and whenever I do light armor, I'll do the all the way up to dragon armor. And if I'm not doing armor at all, then I only go arcane blacksmithing and steel smithing, and I won't do anything beyond those two. But of course, since she's a hybrid character, I did this, and I also did enchanting. In her case, I went with the different elemental perks up to the dual enchantment. For my other vampires, I've done almost the opposite. I've gotten rid of these and just got the ones that help your stamina and your different attributes and skills, and then maybe throw in fire since vampires are weak to fire. But that's Veronica, my first vampire. Let's go ahead and take a look at my next one. Okay, for my newer, legitimately played vampire, I changed up a lot of things, and I went more heavily magic and less combative skills and armor skills. So, in this case, instead of doing light armor, I went with alterations for the perks you get here. Basically, souping up your protection spells like Stone Flesh or Ebony Flesh. And so it's worked pretty well for me, since I'm not getting hit much, and it also makes me more silent, and I thought it was a good way to go. And if you go with alterations, you also get the ability, the spell, to paralyze enemies, which is a great tool, especially if you're trying to keep out of harm's way or control mobs. So I really like the alterations. It makes me a lot lighter too initially, so I can carry more gear myself instead of having to worry about the weight of what I'm actually wearing. So I do recommend this. Plus, if you go for alterations, you're going to be a lot more resistant to magic. You have this extra 20% here, and then also the 30% absorption at the top. So full alterations is what I recommended for this character type. Destruction magic. I went full destruction just because it's great, and you can do a lot with the disintegration and all that kind of stuff too. So most of the time when the illusion spells don't work, I switch right over to destruction and we'll finish off an opponent, or at least blast him with a fireball or whatever it is to get him to stagger back. And then I can take the next action, what might be paralyze or could be going invisible and rehiding to get him with a dagger strike. Of course, full illusion. There's not really any mystery there. As I said, this is kind of the essential part of the vampire build, so I feel like every vampire should at least have something in illusion. You may not need to do mastery, because that's kind of an over-the-top ability that I don't use that much. But everything else under there, like from expert level and down, has come in handy as far as the spell types. Restoration, I did a little bit more on this one too, going up to the next level, which is expert instead of just adept. I'm not sure if that was necessary altogether, but some of the extra perks like the 250 avoid death stuff is kind of cool. Just in case you do get hit real hard by a sledgehammer and you didn't have your armor spell up, you get saved once. The toolbox is just huge with this build, and that's why I like it so much. Of course, to have so much in Magic, you'll see the ratios here, 55 here in Magic. You have to kind of cut down on the other areas, so I did that with combat. All I did was just for daggers, essentially. I put 5 points in here, and then I did the extra 25% less stamina, and the more damage and the critical strike running dagger attack if I needed it. But that's it. I didn't do anything into sword or axe or blade types, and I didn't do the dual wielding perks. I just kept it where I was going to have a one-handed weapon, and it was going to be a dagger most of the time. And that's going to couple with the stealth abilities. And you'll notice nothing else here has any points. There's nothing in light armor, nothing in heavy armor, because we're using cloth. Let's go ahead and look here at the sneak. Now, I've only kept 3 here in sneak because you have a 25% bonus as a vampire. And so to really take advantage of the bonus, I think you should put the extra points in, since you're going to actually get a higher level of stealth just being a vampire with 3 than you would if you were 5 with any other character. So that's one thing you can do to kind of take advantage of the character type of vampire. And then, of course, since dagger is my main attack outside of my magic, I went ahead and did the Assassin's Blade, which gives you 15 times normal damage. And in my case, I'm wearing the gloves from the Dark Brotherhood, so it's actually 30 times more damage from stealth. And so even if you have a wimpy dagger, a dagger that's only 40, 50 or something like that in damage, when you multiply it by 30, you're going to be able to kill huge creatures in one shot. So it's been pretty overpowered, pretty awesome. So it's definitely worth getting the backstab and the bow deadly aim points put in to get that one ability. In this particular case, I think it's justified. And then for non-combat, like I mentioned, I'm not doing anything in the armor tree, so I've only done the arcane blacksmithing, so you can improve your dagger, essentially. And then I went enchanting, of course, doing the duel, so you can enchant your cloth or your robes or whatever with the 2 enchantments later on in higher levels. And then, of course, fire enchanter, so you can have a higher resistance to fire damage, since at a higher level vampire you're going to be weaker to that. 75% in some cases. Now, if you're a dark elf, like I recommend for vampires, that's negated a lot, and so you don't have to worry about it quite as much, but it's still nice to have, especially if you're going to be putting a damage enchantment on your dagger. You could use fire as well. Let's take a look at the next character build. So for the next build, I went back to a hybrid style, and as you might have seen in my first video, I say that being a ranger vampire also has its merits. You can rely more on stealth and magic perks and have a completely viable vampire as well. So I want to try that out. In this one, I've only done full illusion. I even did mastery, which you may not have to do if you want to put those perks somewhere else. I don't use the mastery spell line quite as much, so I'd probably be just fine. And then restoration is a nice way to go too. I don't think you need to do the avoid death, since you're going to be in a light armor. You're going to be less susceptible to getting one-shotted. So I didn't do that. I didn't do the mastery. I probably could have just gone with adept here, really, but I went all the way up to expert for some of the deflection spells from the undead. Now, necromage is important too. Like I've said before, I recommend getting that on all your vampires so you can heal up more. For the combat magic, or for combat abilities rather, I did do full archery. These 2 abilities here, the ranger and the hunter's discipline, I don't think there is necessary, so you can opt out of these if you want to, because the recovery arrows are not that expensive really. You can get those cheap. The faster movement, a lot of times I'm pretty stationary when I'm trying to shoot something, unless I'm on horseback. I liked full archery though. I kind of have more of the ranger theme on this, and I wanted to get everything possible. So feel free to change it as you would like. For the light armor, I did everything except for deft movement because I just feel like that 1 point for a 10% chance of anything is not a good trade-off. So everything in light armor, aside from that, is I think worth putting a point into. And then for one-handed, I like mace damage. Here it says it's 75%, ignoring armor. I went ahead and did 3 in the Bonebreaker, and then I did dual wield, and also this dual savagery, which gets you 50% bonus, which is huge. If you're trying to get in and out without getting hit a lot by an enemy, I recommend this because you can usually dispatch an enemy in one attack. So, and then this paralyzing strike I'm not a huge fan of, so I just went ahead and did savage strike and critical charge too, which have been good abilities. Stealth again is real simple, just 3 points here. You get a 25% bonus as a vampire, so you really want to take advantage of that, seeing as after the first level of stealth you're only getting 5% more, and you get 25% just for being a vampire. And then for doing this hybrid spec, all 3 of these are useful. The one-handed 6-time damage, and then the bow and also the dagger are all something I use in this particular build. So it's real versatile. And then over here for the smithing, I did everything up to the dragon armor on the light side, which is fine. It's been great for me. And then enchanting, just doing the insightful enchanter and the attribute enhancing, and then the fire, along with the dual effects, has been more than enough. So that's the ranger. The one thing I'll say about the ranger, even though it's a little bit less to my liking than just like the pure vampire classes, it is more versatile. So if you're not quite sure you want to stay a vampire the entire length of your play in Skyrim, this would be a good way to go, since you're going to be just as viable not being a vampire as being one, really, with this kind of ranger build. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next class now. Alright, for the last build type, I'm going to go back to more of a pure vampire, or the way that they're really intended to be played, I think, more as a casting type. So, on this one I went with the conjuration style. I went with everything in conjuration except for these summoned weapons, which I feel get less effective as you get into higher levels, and I just like having physical weapons. So I went ahead and did everything as the Atronachs and then also in your undead. And then Twin Souls is great too, so you can have 2 followers at the higher level. And went all the way up to Mastery, so it's a little cheaper to do the Twin Soul spell. I like this a lot. This build worked out really well with Illusion. You can either start out with your Atronachs to kill enemies, or you can start out with Frenzy or Calm if you have a lot of them, and then just take out one enemy and then start raising zombies. So it kind of worked really well with this. And it's a little bit different playstyle than just being a destruction mage. It takes a little bit more, I guess, strategy, and I liked it. I enjoyed it a little bit more too in some ways. Of course, I went cloth armor again for the resistance to magic and for the 30% absorption you're going to get from the spells, and then also mage armor. Seems to save you a lot of weight, and you can sell off a lot of the armor you get in the game. So restoration, I didn't go too crazy. I just went up to adept, which gives you the higher level heal spell along with heal others. And like I said earlier, this recovery is something that's kind of negligible. You may not want that, so it's up to you. You can get this on armor a lot of times with your cloth armor especially. So I went ahead and went with it, since in the daytime you have a slower recovery rate. But feel free to change it if you want to. Here in one-handed weapons, I just did for a dagger basically, so I did 5 points for the 100% more, and then more damage, and then also the fighting stance, savage strike, and critical charge. Those are all effective with daggers, where these other ones aren't going to help you out at all with daggers. And I didn't do anything else in combat, as you see, except for block here. I really kind of reserved this block till later levels, because you're probably not going to use your shield as much, but in a case that you're up against a dragon and you're getting fired on or something, it's nice to have an optional shield. So there's a shield called Spellbreaker you get as a Daedric quest. It works really well with this. So I went and did my extra points up at 5 here in shield, and then I also did 1 for reflecting arrow shots, which you get a lot, and it's kind of an issue as a mage often, and then 1 here to reduce any kind of incoming damage from elemental, which you're going to get a lot at higher levels too. So this is kind of a little perk I did, but it's probably not as essential for this particular play style. I just kind of added it in because I actually had extra points left over where I usually don't. But it is kind of nice if you want to add something, a different element. You could go, instead of dagger in spell, you could have shield in spell, and that would kind of be just as viable and good in some situations, like when you're up against a dragon and you have your minions basically doing most of the damage and you're just trying to stay out of harm's way. Stealth I kept simple, just like I did with the Destruction Vampire. I just did 3, which is more than enough because you get the 25% bonus already as a vampire, so you don't need to overdo it. And then the extra points that get you up here to Assassin's Blade are worth it because you're going to get 15 times whatever your dagger damage is, and then 30 if you have the Dark Brotherhood gloves, or if you get that perk on one of your other crafted gloves. For non-combative, just do real simple here. Go Arcane Blacksmithing so you can improve your dagger a little bit. It's not going to be a huge improvement, but even an improvement of 10 is a lot if you're timesing it by 30, so that's 300 more damage you're going to get. So it's definitely worth getting this little perk. And then Enchanting, I just did the skill and the attribute points along with the extra effect and fire damage improvement. So kept it pretty simple here, but even if you're using cloth armor, you still want to get your extra effects so you can put those 2 effects on each of your different cloth items. So that's kind of fun, and I think overall this particular build and the Destruction Vampire are my 2 favorites out of the 4 that I'm showing here to you. So let's go ahead and go over now to tips and tricks that weren't really covered in my first vampire video. Okay, one of the things I wanted to show you guys is where to get the Lady Stone, which is another great standing stone if you choose to be a vampire, because it lets you regenerate health and stamina quicker, and in the daytime you don't regenerate at all if you don't have any bonus to it on your equipment. But if you get the Lady Stone, you will. So where I am right now is I'm here at the Guardian Stones. Here's Helgen, where you start your quest, and when I came down in the last video I said come here and choose 1 of 3 different options, and I recommended either going Thief or going Mage Stone. But I'm going to show you now is over here you can go over to the Lady Stone and get this one right in the middle of the lake, and it's basically right across the way from North Schweikrend Bastion, where I recommended you go to become a vampire to begin with. So let me show you real quick where that is and a couple signs so you'll know you're close by when you get over there. So let's head over to the Lady Stone. Okay, so here's North Schweikrend Bastion, where I recommended you go in and get your vampire disease when you first start the game. Now if you come right out here to the water from right where North Schweikrend Bastion is, you'll see a stump. So just come up here on the stump, and then you'll be able to see out in the water what looks like a little post. That's actually a shipwreck. If you go down there you can get a treasure box, but that little island that's between here and the that's basically on the other side of the post there is where you'll get the standing stone you'll need. So you can also see the outcropping of the rock. Now I'll tell you that there's going to be some slaughterfish in the water, so just be careful of them if you're a low level. If you just swim straight across, I normally find that they can't really catch up to you. So as I said, this will give you 25% more, I think, regeneration of both health and stamina, as it says. So I'd recommend that if you're going to be a vampire, if you already are a vampire, and you plan on traveling around in the daytime, it will definitely help you out. Okay, for the next tip, I'll show you where the guardhouses are, and the reason this is important is because if you are a higher level stage vampire, you have the ability then to go get blood to go down to stage 1 at any time if you know where the guard shacks are. So here's the guard shack here in Whiterun, the main city. You just come right here to the left, and you don't even need to really sneak if it's daytime to get in. You can walk right in here to the back room, and you'll see 2 sleeping guards. Just go ahead and sneak, and without any problem at all, you can reset your level. It's a lot easier than trying to wait till night. It's just a whole lot more effective and easy, and most all the major hold capitals, there's going to be a guardhouse. Another thing you can do to help yourself out a lot when playing a vampire is to join the Dark Brotherhood quest line. A lot of the gear I have on right now is actually from that quest. My gloves are from that quest, the hat and the shoes, which all help with some part of sneaking. Let me show you real quick what I got here. I got Shrouded Hand Wraps, which double your critical attack damage, so instead of 15 times more dagger damage is 30 from sneak. These are great for sneaking around, since you're going to be going like 3 plus 25 just as the innate benefit of being a vampire. These are kind of invaluable too. And the hat you get later on near the end of the Dark Brotherhood quest. And then the dagger too, which is the best dagger in the game, this Blade of Woe. It has the highest base damage as far as I understand it, and it's also got absorption, which is great for a vampire, especially in the sunlight if you're trying to recover your health when fighting. So I'd recommend you get this dagger. It can be upgraded all the way to legendary without putting any points into smithing above just the basic steel and then the arcane smithing to just basically improve magic weapons. So you want to get those two so you can get a legendary dagger, and this is really the best dagger in the game. So especially if you're not going to be going armor, heavy, or light, I would recommend going to the Dark Brotherhood quest and playing all the way through it. And finally, I wanted to talk to you guys about Necromage, which is one of the skill perks that's going to help your vampire be a little more powerful, because it gives a boost to undead magic by 25%. It doesn't say 25%, but that's actually what it is. So it just says all spells are more effective against undead. Well, that's true against undead enemies, but also vampires. So, for instance, let me show you. If you are going to use armor, like let's go down to alterations here. So for example, if you're going to use armor like stone armor, you'll see that it says it improves caster's armor rating by 60 points. Alright, so we'll go ahead and cast that spell on ourselves. Now we're going to go and take a look at the actual effect we just did, which is the stone armor right here. And you'll notice that it's actually 75 points because it gave us an extra 25%, which is 15 points over that duration. Which is actually longer too. You'll notice that it's 90 seconds and not 60 seconds. So this is really effective when you're wearing mage armor. So if you're all in cloth, remember it's a couple 100% more powerful anyway, and then plus that 25% really enhances your armor. And then also other effects too are more enhanced as well. So if you're buffing yourself with something, or invisibility duration, lots of things. So make sure to always get Necromage, and you'll be giving yourself a 25% advantage. Now, there's a downside to that too. Along with the benefits, when you're in daylight, you're going to be a little weaker to fire, and your health and stamina and stuff will also take a little hit. So it's good and it's bad. But for the armor perk and for cloth wearers especially, you're going to find it especially useful. On my last video, I had received some questions on what to do with status points, so I went ahead and made up this chart to kind of give you an idea. If you're going to be playing a light armored vampire, then you might go with the top suggestion row, and if you're going to be being more of the caster, then go with the bottom one. But it's really ultimately going to depend on your playstyle. But thank you for coming to watch this video, guys. Please thumbs it up, as it helps me a whole lot. And if you want to leave a suggestion on what you might like to see for our future class build for the Skyrim, leave that below in the comment box. So hope to see you again here soon on Skyrim Adventures for Crom.
Now you're mine. Your skin's as pale as the snow. You scared of sunlight or something?